Hi there and welcome to Bustthenet. Yes, on today's show, we're going to talk about how you can use the feature Statzone in the game in order for you to get better results. Now, Statzone is a feature in the game that deals with statistics and performance analysis in football. Now, we know about Statzone in its many guises when you actually watch a football game. You've got Squawka, you've got Pro Zone. There's so many available out there. Clubs use Y Scout. They have actually got tools like this specifically built for clubs. I know Sports Interactive also pitch some of their products to clubs as well. So there is that market out there that now turns to statistics and football analysis for teams to understand how their teams play the game. Now, we can use this to analyze two main things. First, we can use this to analyze how our own teams are doing with a particular tactic. And the second way we can analyze it is to use it to prepare for matches. It is very common for clubs to use some form of statistical and football analysis to prepare for all matches. A very good book to read would be the European Game, The Secrets of Europe's Football Successes. The Secrets of European Football Success. This book was written a while back. It was released a couple of months back. I managed to get my hands on the book. It's got a chapter on Benfica, and in this chapter on Benfica, they go into a lot of detail on how clubs actually prepare. Now, I'm not suggesting we go out there and do the same thing with Football Manager, because there's a certain level of immersion I can accept. Too much immersion, my brains are going to go bonkers. So what do I do? So in the game itself, there are two ways we can approach it. Now, I'm going to deal with how we prepare for games, because we have a case here with Chelsea. We are preparing for the match with Chelsea, and I've done this video before. I've done a version of this video for my Discord community. Now I'm doing one for the general community as well, and this is a new video that I hope helps everybody out. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing we want to do is we need to understand our own tactic, the system that we are playing. Are we playing a system that's vulnerable? We need to know where its vulnerabilities are. So you actually need to know your own system pretty well. Okay, and if you don't, then there will be an issue, because then Statzone or Pro Zone or whatever feature you're going to use is just going to confuse the living daylights out of you. So what do? First, understand your own system, its strengths, know your players' attributes, and everything else, because Statzone allows you to do something Johan Cruyff talked about. Johan Cruyff, he mentioned that it's statistically proven that players spend 3 minutes on average in a game with the ball. The rest of the time, they're without the ball. So the critical thing when we're looking at our systems or looking at how we play against systems is actually understanding how our players are moving off the ball. We need to be able to see whether they're getting to the right positions or they're not, whether they're not getting to the right position. We need to know all that. And sometimes when we go through a game, we don't get enough information. So this is where we use Statzone. So let's get cracking. Now, we are going to be playing a game against Chelsea in the Champions League final. Chelsea are the home side for this. So we are going to try and look at all their away games and we're going to look at all their home games because they're the home side. So we're going to pick a few matches, and this is how I prepare for a game. And I will use Statzone. The very first thing I do with a Statzone is I typically like to know how they scored their goals. So there are several categories when you go to your Statzone, which is available from the analysis tab, and you can see a summary of the heat summary. You can see an overview of the heat map and how Chelsea control the various parts of the pitch. This is the first thing you'll see, the heat map. The heat map shows where they spend most of the time. It's like it's a possession heat map. So as you can see, Chelsea with their 4-2-3, because they were playing a 4-2-3-1, we can see that their heat map shows that they spend a considerable amount of time controlling both flanks. This is interesting because it tells us that against Hull, they were very dominant, and they managed to get some really severe ratings, like 9.4 ratings for some of their players. That's a very, very high number. Then the second thing I look at is how did their goals come about. Now, there's a panel here on the left which gives you a lot of options: shots, passes, crosses. This is for the team. I use this to give me a good idea of the team as a whole. At the bottom, we have the pitch area. Now, I generally leave it at the full pitch because I don't like to, unless I'm looking for something really specific like the defensive shape of my team, then I'll look at this, and I'll split the pitch up. But here we have a shots, and then we can look shots leading to goal. It will highlight 4 shots that led to goals, and 2 of these shots were taken by the number 11. So I go back into their formation. That's Gatti. Gatti looks like Gatti likes to cut inside from the left flank and shoot goals, score goals, right? So that's the first knowledge that I get. Gatti is a man to watch out for. So I know that they're going to be coming down the left flank, because look at Gatti. He's got 2 shots inside the box, and these are just shots that led to the goal. So what we can do then after that is we do something called show the linked events. Now this will show all the moves that led to the goal. Now at any one point you can actually watch the highlights, or you can just come here and click on this and go watch the highlights. So we can see how they develop their play. All the linked events will be shown, and it gets up, goes to Gatti, and Gatti gets it in. Now here at this point you can track it back a bit more, and you can start from here, play the thing again. These are all the linked events. So this is what I like to do. I like to look at how they move the ball to get themselves into a scoring position. And this warns me that they're pretty overloaded on this side of the flank. They got a lot of control here with Tolisso. Tolisso is a number 16 in their system. He ventures forward and 14 holds back. Now Tolisso has got very good balance as well, because he doesn't get moved off the ball. Gatti is strong. He gets the ball to Satriana. Satriana plays the ball back, plays it to Musonda, hits it down to Duran. Gatti gets inside, first touch, scores the goal. Very dangerous because of the movement that they do. It's a lot of fast movement, and they seem to favor the left side. Now, after doing that, we go back, and yeah, this can be quite kind of a mess sometimes, because even sometimes I don't get it right. There must be a shorter way of doing this. But we can do the same thing here. Then we can look at the linked events. Now we got another move that comes from the right flank. Again, it seems to go past Henry Goossens. So the first linked event and the second linked event. Once again, we show the linked events. Now we watch the highlights. Goossens, this is in the second half. Goossens does a lot of movement off the ball, gets the ball up, high up the pitch. He has come on as a sub. This is Goossens. Goossens is their deep lying forward. This is their deep lying forward. And now I know that, okay, this guy is not playing as a poacher. He's going to be moving around a lot, drawing my players in. So I got to be wary. About their number 18. If they play with this system, they're using this striker to draw players away from the middle in order for us to open up the flanks. So now we got 2 things, Goossens and Gatti. Gatti is going to be the main goal scoring threat, and Goossens is the decoy. He creates chances for them. So when we go through the analysis tab, that alone tells us a considerable amount of information about how they score goals from this side of the flank. Now we can go through again, do the same thing here. This is a link. If you get a linked event like this, it means that there's nothing much. It's probably a free kick or a corner. So we can skip this, and then we move out of this, and we know that this is just a free kick corner routine. Then we can skip to the next highlight again. It shows the linked events. Again, this is a very fast, this builds up from the back and gets to the front. And we watch the highlight again. Diego from deep, Goossens. If I play with a high line, Goossens will do a good job of holding the ball up. Again, he holds the ball up and he gets into the box. So if I am going to play deep, I might stand a better chance. If I play with a pushed up defensive line, they tend to play with a structured or a flexible shape, and they'll be able to get the ball up really quickly. So we've seen several highlights. So this is how I use Statzone. Statzone now tells me something about the way they attack and how they're going to attack. So I know now that Goossens likes to drop deep. They like to play the ball from a structured shape. If we don't do something about shutting down their midfield, we're gonna have an issue in this game. So this is just this is just from the shots alone. So we can remove the shots, and then the next thing that I do in this game is I always look at key pass combinations, because the key pass combinations in the game will give me an indication of where they're controlling all their passes from. So here, this is the goalkeeper, and this is their key pass combinations. This is Gatti on the left. He's got 31, all right, and he links up. his main link person is Corentin Tolisso, and his second link person is actually Diogo Jota. So these two players in the MC and the AMC are the main feeders for Gatti. So I need to do something about shutting down either one of these two players in the game. Now, if you notice as well, they don't really build a lot of play from the defender to the left back. So even if I close down their right flank, they're not going to use that right flank. If I put a lot of pressure on their fullback, it's not really going to be giving us a lot of love in this game. What I really want to do is play on this side of the flank where they do a lot of their business. So a lot of their business happens here. Notice Adriano Lopez with 73 passes. And then I've got link passes with Tolisso. Then I've got link passes with Jonas Holmgard. And I've got link passes with Alexandra Panquedas. And then we got link passes with even their defenders. So we know that a lot of their play now comes from the right. So what they do, interestingly enough, is build everything from the right, and then when they get the chance, they move the ball to the left, and they draw people out using Gatti. Gatti then goes on to score. So what we need to do is I'm going to have to think of a left-sided attack for this game. Essentially, if my tactic has got a right-sided attack, even if I do put a lot of pressure here, it's not going to make much of a difference because they don't build anything from here. But if my tactic has a lot of pressure down this side of the pitch, if I can overload this side of the pitch, then I have a potential of breaking things down. Then I just have to make sure that on my right flank, we look after Gatti. We make sure that Gatti doesn't get away. We make sure that this guy, when he does his drifting around and creating a space, that's another player that we have to watch out for. The key pass combinations actually give me a very good idea of how they build their attacks up. So the key pass combinations become very, very handy. The key pass combinations also give me an indication that there might be a gap here that some of my players might be able to exploit with a rammed out or a winger on attack, inside forward. Something that I may want to think about when I'm deciding how I want to play against Chelsea. So now what we need to do is we need to go and look at the games to verify what we found out. So we know that Chelsea builds the play down the right. So we need to actually break that play down. Now we're looking at Arsenal, who managed to defeat them. And we looked at their key pass combinations. They're pretty solid on the left side, which is where we want to break them down. Looking at Chelsea here, this is the area we want to break down. So we look at this, and then finally what we do is we plot interceptions. The sheer number of interceptions that are happening on this side of the flank is what we're going for. So we have verified what we needed to know. In order for us to break Chelsea down, we'll have to find some way to get these group of players good interceptions. They've got to be mentally aware. They've got to be solid in shutting down players like Holmgard, Diogo Jota, and we also have to worry about the danger of Tolisso. Now, what about other stuff in the game? There are other stuff in the game, but I don't get really too worried about things like tackles and aerial challenges. I'm more interested in something called interceptions. Now, interceptions in my game, if notice one thing, they've got a lot of interceptions in the opponent's half. This side, if they do interceptions here and they can launch an attack here, this is a counter-pressing system, more or less, because if I can do an interception by somebody here on the left side, I can get an attack going. So over here, they intercept Zuma, Diego, builds it to Tolisso. They're almost in a position to attack down this flank. So we know that Kurt Zuma is extremely good at stepping up. He's intercepting balls as far up as here. So this flank is actually a dangerous flank. The left flank now is a flank that if we attack down that flank, then chances are they're going to score. Because if we lose, they intercept the ball, they play the ball over the top, we're going to have an issue. So this is how I use interceptions in the game. Now, what about the rest of the stuff? Now, the rest of the stuff isn't so important. To be honest with you, I know everybody does this. Okay, average position with the ball. Now, it doesn't tell me much. Okay, in a nutshell, it will just give me an idea of my formation. That's all, about how our formation looks like. But honestly, relative positioning, this is over This is averaged out over 90 minutes. So things are always going to be different. Let's look at them after 29 minutes. This was the average positionings after 29 minutes. This was the average position of the ball after 15 minutes. This is the average position of the ball at the start of the second half. So does it really make a difference? No. Because whenever people show you a screenshot, just this, and they don't show you what's below, it's no real point. So I don't really care about average positions very much. Even when I have them without the ball, it doesn't really matter to me. Okay, it does, as you can see, the average positions keep changing. What I'm more interested about average positions here, and this is how you should use it, is find a period in the game where they were defending. Then you want to see what their shape looks like when they defend. Do they have two solid banks of 4, or do they defend, do they close down really early? So if you were to look at this would require you to watch a game. The without ball screen doesn't really tell me very much. Okay, here it's an average positions on the screen, but as you can see, when the ball transitions through an attack, this is what I will literally see. They don't defend for like 90 minutes, they defend for like a minute. So here they are trying to defend, and I'm more interested in the shape that they take when they come back, and the players that come back, and whether or not their fullbacks close down early. So I'll be looking to see interceptions by their fullbacks and their tackling for their fullbacks, and how tight they are when they defend. This gives me a really good idea as to their defensive width. And this information is not something that you will find from the with or without ball screen. You actually end up having to look at it. So this screen in particular isn't something that I'm concerned about. The next thing you want to do with the stats, yes, there are other things in the game like shots. Where do they place their shots? I hardly ever use this feature. Then we get to this feature, which is more interesting, which is Chelsea's the individual players. Now here, I'm always looking to see who has got the highest interceptions in the team. Kurt Zuma gets 24 interceptions. Then what you want to do is you want to see where his interceptions are. Kurt Zuma's interceptions go as far up as the midfield line. Again, here you can watch the highlight. So if you want to know how they defend and where they defend and how high up they get interceptions, this is a very good way of checking it out. Then we know that Kurt Zuma does a lot of the interceptions on the left line. And on the right side, the guy doesn't do as many interceptions here. So I'm more inclined to want to go through on the left side of the flank, because Kurt Zuma is pretty dominant on this side of the pitch. Then we can look for other players who do interceptions high up the pitch. They tend to do interceptions high up the pitch. So they're pretty aggressive in the way they close down. This is one of the other ways I'll look at their highlights. So I'll go into a match, I'll look at the highlights and see, okay, fine, this was an interception by Lopez. It was very high up the pitch. And it gives us an indication that they are a team that plays with a high press. So this is information that we can use when we want to go and play against Chelsea. The important ones that I would look at are things like passes received. Like in this system that they have, we have to remove this first. Okay, then if you want to look at the players, the important players, and how they receive their passes, we can also try and narrow down their formation, 16 and 14. How important are they to the system? Then we go to their players. We go to 16 and 14, and we look at where they received all their passes. This is 14. He received all his passes in this area. So he's a very dominant, and you can notice his passes are usually more or less sideways. And then we've got Tolisso. His passes are forwards. So the dangerous player is Tolisso. He tends to move forward a lot, and he's a person that tends to make more key passes in attacking areas instead of Lopez. Lopez's key passes are coming from deep. So Lopez will be playing deep, trying to thread those sudden passes, whereas Tolisso is the one that's going to be linking their midfield to the attack. The player we want to shut down is Tolisso. So now we have already identified the player we have to limit, whose influence needs to be limited. We already know which side of the flank we can't go down. We can't go down the right side. We know that there's maybe some room where we can attack over the left side. We know their key pass combinations are developed on their right side. So what we want to do is we want to attack going up the left side. So this is how we have planned everything up. Then this is how you can use Prozone features. Now, there are a lot of stats in this game. There's a lot of information in this game. And to be honest, the best way to use this is actually to start with something simple. It's always going to be preparing for a game, watch the highlights, watch the linked events that lead up to a goal, then identify where they make most of the interceptions. Finally, look at their key pass combinations to see which group of players are actually the ones building up the play and on which side of the pitch they build up their play. Then look for the link player that links their midfield to the attack. And finally, in defense, there's got to be one king and one prince. So the king happens to be Kurt Zuma. He's the Lord Emperor, or on their left side. So we know that if we want to attack them, we're going to have to go down the left a bit more. Finally, we also know that Gatti is cutting inside, so we have to look after our right flank. Then we also know that Goossens tends to drift around. Tight marking him is suicidal, so we can't tight mark him. If we tight mark him, we are in deep shit because he's going to drag those markers around all over the place. So nobody's going to mark Goossens at all. We're going to let Goossens run all over the place like a headless chicken. And we hope that we can keep it tight. So the strategy for the game, roughly we've got something lined up. This is the way I use Statzone in the game to prepare for matches. I hope that you found this video helpful. And if you have any questions, please feel free to look me up on Twitter at Bustthenet or addicted2fm.com, my website. Once again, I'd like to thank all my patrons for their continued support of this channel. You make these kind of shows possible for the rest of the community. Thank you. Bye-bye.